Welcome to OsteoWarriors. That's with a capital TEA, where OsteoWarriors in treatment and recent survivors spill the tea on all things osteosarcoma and cancer from the adolescent and young adult patient perspective. Listen in on our honest and personal conversations about our osteo experiences, stories, and who knows what else. We get off track sometimes. This podcast discusses all aspects of the young adult cancer experience in a conversational format. Audience discretion is advised. Like and follow MIB Agents on social media for all the intel and hot goss.
Guys, save the date and mark your calendars for Factor 2023. It's June 22nd through 24th in Atlanta, Georgia. Yeehaw! Registration is now live, and you can go to mibagents.org to register.
And we have a great new Outbarking Osteosarcoma fundraiser, which Kara, I know that Miss Piggy is a part of. Dogs are 10 to 50 times more likely to get osteosarcoma than humans, so canine and human osteosarcoma research helps benefit both species. To help raise money for osteosarcoma research, education, and patient programs, purchase an adorable Outbarking bandana for your dog. I know I still need to get them for my 2 dogs. Then post their pic and get your friends and family to vote for your pooch. Our esteemed panel of judges, who just happen to also be incredible veterinary oncology researchers, will help us pick who were at best, the best doppelganger, not doppelganger, doppelganger, and best talent. You can find all the details on the MIB Agents website.
Welcome back to Osteo Season 2. This is crazy. I feel like it was just literally 2 days ago when I first proposed this idea and we recorded our first episode. And holy moly, it's just been a wild ride. But I am certainly super excited for season 2. And very excited for our episode today. We will be talking about navigating campus, limb-salvage, and amputation patient perspectives. And we have wonderful OsteoWarriors Daniel and Kara joining us. So, yeah.
What's the tea, you guys? No, what's literally. What's everyone drinking? I've got some coffee with some chocolate metabolism powder mixed into it. I normally don't drink caffeine, but I recently started Pilates teacher training to become an instructor, and it's exhausting, but I love it. So caffeine is my friend now. What are you guys drinking?
Today I'm actually double fisting, but I have not opened my other bev yet. I have some Thrive Market organic calming tea. So this is probably chamomile and lavender. And this super cute Urban Outfitters mug. And it has I'm not gonna dump my boiling hot tea on my computer right now, but it has this cute little snail inside of it.
Love a snail.
So cute. And then I have sparkling LaCroix pamplemousse naturally essenced seltzer, and there's a cat hair stuck to the can.
Love it.
Daniel, what are you drinking today?
Yeah, I'm drinking bubble tea from a place in the town center called Coco. My family gets bubble tea pretty often, so we kind of have gotten it from a lot of different places.
Slay. I love boba. What about you, Kara?
I'm drinking water. I don't like tea.
Oh,
so I know.
Water.
I know. I wish I liked tea. I just really don't. I don't like coffee either, which is weird, but I'm enjoying my water.
We're the exact opposite because I hate water. It's just so boring and gross. I
agree
though. Have a flavor. It has to have a flavor or I'm not drinking it.
Purely hydrate or dihydrate, you know?
But now that we know what we're drinking, let's dive on into our conversation today. And I guess it would make sense for all of us to kind of share a little bit about our experiences with osteo and what treatments we've done, what type of surgery we've had. And yeah, so I guess I can start it off. I know a lot of listeners might know a little bit about me, but for any new listeners out there, I was diagnosed with metastatic osteosarcoma when I was 10 in 2013. I opted for limb salvage surgery, although amputation was one of my options. I underwent that in 2013. I also did MAP-IE chemotherapy. Since then, I've relapsed. I gotta think about this now a little bit more because I actually just had a recent relapse on Wednesday, like 3 days ago. So I think I'm on my 8th relapse, and yeah, but that's a little bit about me. Mia, how about you? Share a little bit.
Well, I haven't been in the osteo game for 10 years, but I have been in it for 4.5 now. It'll be 4.5
long time
diagnosed.
long.
Yeah, 4.5 years on the 15th. So beware the Ides of March. Hopefully some of you get that reference. Anyway, speaking of getting stabbed, that's what I do repeatedly. I get stabbed. So currently I am being treated with cryogenic ablation. So I've done the whole limb salvage. You know, I was first diagnosed with it in my tibia, did a limb salvage. I've had 2 thoracotomies. And basically I've just been treated with, I've done so many chemo regimens, an immunotherapy regimen, and then a chemo regimen for a month after that. And now I am systemic treatment free, for now. We'll see. I don't know. You never know. And, I do cryogenic ablations, which is basically where they take a probe. I'm awake for it. It's minimally invasive. And
You're awake for it?
yeah, I mean, I'm sedated, so they drug me. It's I get it's not fully Twilight. I have to be awake because I have to follow instructions, but you know, and so they just go in and they freeze the tumors. That one of the ones he got was 2 millimeters. Another one was just a former ablation site. That was about 1 centimeter. And he just blasted that again because he didn't like how it was healing. That's just something they do, I guess. And then he got another tumor that was close to my diaphragm. So I still have some nerve pain, which is really fun. That was done on Wednesday. So Wednesday was just a great...
Wednesday was a day for the osteo girly.
But yeah, but according to my interventional radiologist, my lungs are the best that they've been since he started treating me 2 years ago. So I will take that as a win. And will it change? Maybe. Who's to say? You never know with me. But
a win is a win.
A win is a win. And, you know, I hopefully we only go up from here.
So true.
Daniel?
Yeah, so I was diagnosed with osteosarcoma in 2020 when I was in 7th grade. The options I was given for surgery were limb salvage, with a replacing my knee with metal. It was I had the tumor in my distal femur, and but then the other option was rotation plasty, and then I ended up not going with either and going with an option that was offered by Dr. Prince in New York, it's called distraction osteogenesis. It's a limb salvage surgery where they basically regrow the portion of the bone that they removed. So it's a longer process, but it should offer like more function like in the end. It did not end up working out perfectly, so right now I have a spacer in my knee and I'm waiting to get a rotation plasty once some other healing like finishes, I guess.
Did not know that was a thing, like osteogenesis.
I think Jillian on the junior advisory board. Yeah. Oh, I think that's the only 2 people that I've ever heard of getting that.
No. Well, what about you, Kara? Tell us your story.
I was also diagnosed in 2020 in my left tibia. I did MAP chemotherapy and immunotherapy, and I also had a left above the knee amputation. I opted for the amputation, and I've been good ever since.
Slayer.
Very swag money.
So I guess we kind of all answered this, but kind of I guess, what surgery do we all have, and what were our options, and like why did we, choose what we chose over what we didn't choose. So I guess for me, I was 10 years old, so I don't really know how conscious I was, like, making the decision, but I do remember that when I met with my orthopedic surgeon, and she explained the options to little 10-year-old Camille, that was, like, really the first time where I kind of broke down hearing, like, amputation or limb salvage. I was an Irish dancer since I was 3 years old. That was kind of like my life, my livelihood. That's what I kind of wanted to do with my entire life, was maybe be a river dancer, maybe be a teacher. So obviously, if you're in the osteo world, you probably know, like, the advantages and disadvantages of, amputation and limb salvage. And it was pretty much laid out to me that limb salvage, you get to keep your leg. Yes, there's probably going to be a big, nasty scar on it, but it's, rebuilt with a cadaver bone or metal, and plates and screws. But the downside is that you're not really ever able to run or jump or do high impact sports. And ultimately for me, that meant Irish dance, which was super, super sad. And then with amputation, the upside to that is that, you can do, high impact sports. I don't have an amputation. I guess we'll hear from Kara about what that experience is like, but I think it really came down to, for me, can I do Irish dance with an amputation? I think I knew that it didn't seem likely, so I opted to keep my leg, and yeah, that was kind of why I chose limb salvage. What about you, Mia?
So it was a little odd. I was not the typical osteosarcoma case. So normally what happens is they find the tumor, they will start you on chemotherapy or some sort of systemic treatment for a few weeks, make sure that it's doing something, and then they will operate and resume that same chemo if it was working. For me, they did a bone biopsy of the tumor and it came back as benign. Now, that's because the front half of the tumor was benign and the back half of the tumor was osteosarcoma.
What?
Yeah. So basically, I had the option of my orthopedic surgeon, who I love, she did a great job, going in and taking out the diseased part of the bone and putting in some bone cement and just, fixing it up a little bit, getting slight margins, but nothing huge. And then just stitching me back up, and I'd be back at school after 2 months. Like, great, that sounds perfect. Let's do that. But I also had the option of a limb salvage in case it did come back that the entire tumor was cancerous. Should I have done that? Probably. Did I do it? No, because we sometimes, as young adults and teens and adolescents and what have you, we sometimes feel like we're invincible and that we can push through pain. I know that, 2 of us in this group were dancers. I worked out a ton, did a lot of Pilates. I did dance, although it was terrible. It was just for PE credit. Daniel, I'm sure that you were active and you had your own sports or activities that you really enjoyed. And it's a hard choice to make. So you usually pick the option. I mean, Kara, I know you picked amputation first, but you usually pick the option that seems like, oh, maybe you still hold out hope that you can do it. And Kara, the pictures that you've been posting of you dancing are incredible. And they always make me smile. But, so yeah, I was kind of an odd duck case, and they took the tumor out. I found out 5 days later that it was cancerous. Went back in a couple weeks later, had my limb salvage done. I have 15 inches of metal. His name is Rodney. Because
Rodney.
he gives out all the time. He is not a reliable friend. However, he does get me from point A to point B. And I can still walk and go upstairs and do some stuff, just not for very long periods of time. Yeah, so obviously when they found out I was osteo, they were like, we could do, an amputation, but you've already done one major surgery. So let's just do the limb salvage and go from there. Because they already had taken it out and had some margins taken. So they were able to kind of know more, and they were like, it hasn't spread yet. So I'm like, okay. So that's what I did. And then it spread to my lungs eventually. Yeah, now I'm still getting lung tumors treated. I've had tumor in my scapula, my right scapula, my T7, my iliac crest in my pelvis, my sacrum, which is by your tailbone, and one in my femoral neck on the leg that it originated on. So I was wondering if I had to have an amputation when I found that news out, but it was so high up that it wouldn't really have been useful. So they ablated it and it's gone. So that's nice. But yeah, Daniel, you have a really interesting story.
Yeah, so actually in the end, I ended up having to make 2 surgical decisions. So the first one, as I said before a little bit, I was given the choice between the metal prosthesis, which is a limb salvage, and rotationplasty, which is an amputation. But then when my parents eventually found out about Dr. Prince's procedure, I think they found out through like some Facebook group or something. But I ended up choosing that one because I previously was a really big tennis player. And I kind of felt like for most of my life, I didn't really enjoy playing tennis that much. But then just that past couple months, I started to like improve a lot and enjoy it a lot more. So I kind of wanted to hold on to that. And I knew it was going to be more surgeries than either of the other options. But by then, my only surgery I had was the biopsy and my port placement. So I didn't really think I really underestimated how big and annoying and painful surgeries are. So I ended up going with that, going through it. It was, how long did it take in total? I think it took I can't do math.
Okay.
I think it took a little under 2 years, and then it ended up not working out. So then I had to get a surgery to put in a spacer, which is what I have right now. And then that's kind of just like a temporary thing that's supposed to hold me over until my next surgery, which is another choice between the same limb salvage with the metal prosthesis or rotationplasty. And I went with rotationplasty this time partly because of the functionality, but also because after going through so many surgeries, I don't really want to have to go with more down the line. And I also had to deal with an infection for a year. And Dr. Prince basically told me that if I were to go with the limb salvage, because of how big of a piece of metal it is in my leg, I would have I think he said around 75% chance of having another infection, which would mean more surgeries. So I didn't really want to have to do that. So
yeah, I wouldn't want to have to do that either.
Yeah.
So, and just quickly touching on what you said about people underestimating the procedures, how could we not, when we're not experienced, when we haven't seen loved ones go through major experiences like that, major procedures like that? It's so difficult to understand the scope of how painful, how much time it takes, and what you have to do before and after, and just the entire process of it. So
it's never straightforward. Osteo and cancer just loves to throw some curveballs at you.
it really does, and healing is never linear. So,
Yep.
Well,
Kara, darling.
Yeah.
So I was also given the choice between limb-salvage, amputation, and rotation plasty. I also had like a little bit of a unique situation where during my first few months of chemo, I developed three blood clots right below my tumor. So I lost feeling in my left foot and I was non-weight bearing the whole time. So it was kind of just like dead limb there. So it was unclear if I had done limb salvage and rotation plasty if I would have gotten that feeling in that foot back. And likely if I was doing limb salvage, I would have been in a boot for the rest of my life. Um, so that was like part of a factor. And then also, through like people I knew online through MIB and just the osteo community, I had seen lots of people go through multiple surgeries, like for limb salvage or rotation plasty or get infections and stuff like that. And I was really fearful of having to do more than one surgery and have that like ongoing process because it does not sound fun. So I ultimately opted for amputation. I was pretty confident in my surgeon and the margins that she could get. She did an above the knee amputation, even though my tumor was below the knee, just to steer clear of that tumor. And it's been pretty good. I was non-weight bearing for like a year and a half. And I actually got my prosthetic a few months after I finished chemo. Quite a long time after my surgery, but then relearning how to walk and still working on stairs and everything, but it's been going pretty good.
I mean,
Kara
that's
was
really cool. Hope for, you know.
Kara was tearing around LA with me. We had a grand old time when she came out to visit. So it was a rip roaring time, as the kids used to say.
Okay, well, now that we know a little more about like our specific experiences and all the decisions we've had to make, I guess we'll talk a little bit about campus and school. Kind of just talk about what campus is like for you, like how big is it, how small is it, are there any like accessibility issues, and like how do we get around with, you know, these limb salvages, these prostheses. I don't even know. I don't even know what to say. But I guess for me, I'm a sophomore at Boston University. And BU's campus is pretty unique. It's kind of spread out over a little over a mile, just right in the middle of Boston. So it doesn't really have a campus feel. And when I was making my college decisions in senior year, I was very drawn to BU because it's a great school and they had what I was looking for in terms of like my major and stuff like that. But I was terrified of this fake campus. I guess I didn't really mention, but as you guys were talking, I, realized maybe my limb salvage experience wasn't too uncommon, but I had two big revisions. One of which I had screws literally snap in half in my cadaver bone. Had two huge revisions, and luckily my last one, which was in 2017, has been pretty successful. And I definitely do have pain, but it's not as bad as it was. So yeah, I was a little scared, but I was like, you know what? I'll figure out how to get around campus. I'm really excited for the BU life, and eventually I kind of worked on building up stamina just by being on campus. And luckily, the Green Line train runs right through campus. There's like 5 stops, so it's like basically you're never really walking more than a block if you're taking a train. And they also have like the MBTA bus, and then they have a BU shuttle bus. So you're never really forced to walk if you plan your classes accordingly. Like I cannot like, schedule a class that's on one side of campus and then 15 minutes later it's on the other side. Like, I know that is not doable for me. So I make sure, my classes are spaced out. I make sure, I like to sleep in, so I try and plan them for as late in the day as possible. And I make sure I have time to like stop at the bus or hop on the train. But yeah, Mia, what about you?
I have a whole story too, but I just want to say one of the most helpful things that you can do on your campus, whether it be high school, but this is mostly for universities and college campuses, especially if they're public universities, they have to have good disability access. So I would use the Disability Resource Office, resources all the time. So I was diagnosed when I was a freshman in college at the University of Washington. It was actually over summer break, only a couple weeks before I was supposed to start classes again. So I was, prepared to just go head first into my sophomore year. My grades were good. I was happy. I loved my sorority, Chi Omega, Go Chi-O. And being Greek actually ended up being one of the largest obstacles for me, believe it or not, even though my friends were incredibly supportive. So the University of Washington is in Seattle, which is a very hilly, damp, and stair-filled city. It's beautiful, especially in the summer. But campus has a lot of brick because it's very old, which is very slippery. And I went from my only experience being there, fully able-bodied, to having this newly placed Limb-Salvage. And I was slipping and sliding everywhere. I'm just going to be completely honest. And it gets icy in the winter and late fall. I was only there for fall quarter before I had to come back for more treatment. But I use the disability shuttle a lot, but I still would have to walk a good 1,000 feet to some classes. And it stopped running after a certain hour, so I would have to walk back to class. And because Seattle is pretty far north, it would get really dark. So I would just be like alone walking back from, my nursing class in the dark. I'm no longer a nursing major, but that's neither here nor there. I was walking back and I would just constantly trip. And because the Greek system is off campus and it's not owned by the university, they don't fix the sidewalks up, and it's all really old tree roots. So everything's a trip hazard, and the houses are so old that none of them have elevators. And of course, the best rooms were always on the higher floors. And we all had bunk beds. And so I lived in a 3-story house that was essentially 4 stories with the basement, which we commonly also had to use, that being, the bottom floor. And I lived on the top floor. So that was always really difficult, especially doing laundry. So plan accordingly when it comes to your living situation, and don't be too ambitious like I was. That's my biggest tip. But just having good friends that support you, knowing just kind of the local public transport is really, really helpful as well. And letting, if you're in college, an adult, you're adult, I guess, know that you need help, someone in the administration of your school, or if you're in high school, just one of the higher ups, a guidance counselor, or even the nursing office, just one of the higher ups, they'll help you. But Daniel, what's it been like getting around school for you?
So I'm actually in high school. I'm a sophomore, and I was diagnosed when I was in 7th grade. So my whole high school career, you want to call it that, so far has been with Limb-Salvage. And Um, my school actually has been very helpful in terms of accessibility and all that. Like my 504 plan has a lot of things. The majority of it has to do with getting around. I don't want to jump ahead, but I have an aide who helps me with like my bags and with my, I guess, singular bag. And yes, most of my classes have been scheduled on the first floor, but I have like one or two that are upstairs, and I get up there through with an elevator. Most actually, I think every entrance has a ramp, and stairs, going towards it. So accessibility in general at my school is pretty good. And yeah, and then also there's like a couple adults, like guidance counselor and other people who have been very helpful.
It's taking guidance counselor to a whole new meaning.
Yeah.
For me, I'm currently a second semester senior at the University of Buffalo in Buffalo, New York. I was a freshman when I was diagnosed. So before I was diagnosed, I lived in the dorms, and then COVID hit and everything. But then in 2021, I went back to campus. I kind of did exactly what Mia said. I chose my housing very accordingly. I wanted to live off campus, and so I did. So I apartment searched, and I looked for a place that had an elevator, and decided whether or not I wanted to live on first floor or second floor. Also like took into account the size of my room and bathroom, what a wheelchair could fit in and couldn't fit in. I had a plan in case the elevators broke of what would happen, making sure I could do the stairs. So I live currently on the second floor, and our elevator does break a lot. But I know that I can't do that one flight of stairs if I have to. Campus for me at Buffalo, I'm very lucky that it's very flat in Buffalo, so I don't have to deal with any hills or anything. Also, like Camille, I kind of plan my classes accordingly, so if I can get more than one class in the same building, then I do that, just so I don't have to walk somewhere else, especially when it gets cold out in the winter. And also knowing where the elevators are in my building, taking advantage of those elevators, even if it's just one floor. We also have public transportation in Buffalo, but I personally am lucky enough to have my own car. So I drive myself, and I make a lot of use out of the handicap parking pass. And then I'm also best friends with my school's accommodation services. They know me very well and are there for me, whether it be like physical access, or if I need like more time test taking, or I had plans in place in case something were to come up appointment wise that I would get extensions on assignments. They also, this has been really helpful for me, but Buffalo gets a lot of snow. So my accommodation services has me on top priority for plowing for the city of Buffalo. So I tell them what days and what times I go to campus and the streets that I take to campus, and they actually put me on a priority list for plowing. So they make sure that my street gets plowed first so that I can drive, and that if I have to walk, that I can walk safely in the snow and not totally fall over on my face. But it's still tough. It is a lot of physical exertion, just like walking around campus for me, but definitely have my tips and tricks too.
Yeah, so I guess, we have our ways of making it work, making it the best we can. Making it better agents. But some agents don't know how to make it better. So have you guys ever had any navigation or accessibility horror stories? Because I definitely have. So I was diagnosed, right, and I was in the 4th grade. So my elementary school that I went to in my town was actually the only elementary school to not have an elevator. And so like the kindergarten, if I'm remembering correctly, no, first grade was in the basement, kindergarten and second grade on the second floor, and then third, fourth, and fifth on the third floor. So when I went to class, had to scoot up like 3 flights of stairs to go. And it was so I just cannot believe that I had to do that. I put on like, you know, like gloves, like rubber gloves on
too.
And like scooted up, and I was like, this is just not worth it. But then in my 5th grade year, my school was kind enough to switch classrooms for me. So the classroom was now on the second floor, which is, there's a door to it, and you don't have to go up any stairs. But I honestly don't know like whatever happened with that, but I feel like that should not be allowed. Like, you need to have an elevator in a school. And I hope that I was the catalyst to maybe some change in that elementary school, in that institution, because I should not have had to do that. Like, so serious.
It's with older buildings. It really is. And so when you're planning your high school or college courses, just make sure, just ask someone, anyone, if there is an elevator and how reliable it is, or if there is a ramp of any kind, because this is more common than people think. Like, there was only one sorority house of 20 that had an elevator, because the rest of them were built in the late 1800s or early 1900s. So not only cursed, but, you know, it's not very accessible. But yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to pick a navigation or accessibility horror story. I'm gonna go with Coachella. So I am your typical LA girly. I enjoyed the only music festivals I've been to, both of which were Coachella. One of which was pre-cancer, the other one post-cancer. Technically, I planned going in June of 2018, and Coachella, so I bought the tickets in June of 2018. I was diagnosed in September of 2018, and Coachella wasn't until April of 2019. Pre-sale always goes on in June. So I had booked passes for me and 2 friends under my name, non-refundable plane tickets, and a non-refundable hotel. So I didn't ask my oncologist if I could go. I told him, because that's a lot of money. I'm going to make this work. And he said, okay, we can build your chemo schedule around that. And so I took a week off of chemo, just a week. And then fully bald, no eyebrows, freshly put in Limb-Salvage. Rodney, brand new to me. He only closed, the scar only closed up in January, and this was April. So, you know, what could go wrong when you're with, you know, obviously this is pre-COVID, 100,000 people in a field in the desert, you know, just basic girly things, you know, just fun stuff. And they had a disability van, and it was so far from anything and everything. And there were people who were on crutches, and I was like, you go, you slay. And for some reason, I thought that it was a good idea that for someone who hadn't walked more than half a mile straight, that I could just go straight into Coachella. No preparations. I'm just going to wear a light dress, you know, so I don't get too hot. And I'm just going to wear my Birkenstocks, and I'm going to go. I walked
Not the Birkenstocks.
6.5 miles. My feet weren't used to that. My hips sure as hell weren't used to it. My pelvis was so out of alignment. You could see how far up one hip was compared to the other. It was messy. It was not cute. I kept having to, at random, just fully yeet my upper body down towards my knees so I could stretch out and traction out my back, because my hips were so out of whack. And my friends who were with me were so very supportive. did not know what to do. I definitely wasn't the only person on opioids who was there, but probably the only person who was legally prescribed them. So there was that. And of course I couldn't drink or do anything else for risk of me falling. So it was still great. I was a little disappointed by Ariana Grande, to be honest, but she's very talented. It's just her set was underwhelming. I'm sorry, I had to say it, but accessibility wise, it was a complete nightmare. My thighs chafed so much that they bled because I had gained weight that I didn't used to have, and didn't plan accordingly. And so then I had to order shorts like really last minute to the hotel, and like it was messy. It was really bad. I ended up still having a good time because my friends are super supportive and the music was great, but that's just only one of my horror stories of getting around with a limb salvage and not planning accordingly. I think I'm just too ambitious. People say I'm smart. After these decisions, I don't really think so. But that's also ableist the Coachella people. They need to get on that. So yeah, Daniel, have you had any crazy?
Yeah, so this happened a month or two ago. Yeah, it was at school. This one's probably not as elaborate as your story, but so this happened at school at during lunchtime, and our cafeteria is not, well, it's a decent sized cafeteria, but our school has so many kids that like it's always so crowded, especially during passing time. And as my lunch ended, and this was also a rainy day, so like the linoleum, whatever material floor it is, are like not the best, especially like near the doors and stuff. So I remember I was going to class, and it was like I was like in like a big crowd kind of thing, and I think this was still when I was on 2 crutches, and then I was walking, and somebody or something, I don't exactly know what happened, but one of my crutches, as it was in the air, was kind of like kicked to the side. So it went out from under me, and then I tried to like, normally like if one of my crutches slips, I pull them both as close to my body as possible to get them as perpendicular to the ground as possible, but it was already so far that I couldn't do it anymore. And basically somehow one was kicked, but then the other ended up sliding forward as well. So both of my crutches slid forward and I fell on the ground. And then honestly, like, I don't remember that much, but I basically just went to the nurse and then kind of spent a couple blocks there. And yeah.
God, like, did you like hit, like, I mean, I'm assuming you like hit your...
Yeah, so I think because I fell forward, I couldn't like rotate onto my right, so I hit my left leg. But then I got an X-ray, and thankfully everything was fine. So in the end, like, there weren't really any long-term consequences, but definitely could have been worse.
It's still scary. Falling is terrifying. I went into septic shock back in October of 2021, and I, finally was learning how to walk again and was using a walker, and I decided for some reason that I didn't need it. And so I was walking around my house and fully fell. And it's terrifying. And I'm glad that there are people there to help you up, and that you had the nurse's office to go to, and that your x-ray was clear, because it's traumatizing enough in and of itself.
Right. And I was gonna say, like, you're told you can't run, jump, or do high impact sports. Like, you are on such high alert that, like, falling, it seems like such a simple thing, but can be like so anxiety provoking. Like, what if you have to have another surgery? Like, what if this broke it? Something, it, yeah.
Yeah, it kind of sent your mind like spiraling down.
Right. Yeah.
Kara, any good ones? And I have like 3 short ones. The first one, I'd say, like, my apartment building, one time our elevator broke and the maintenance company couldn't come for 4 days. Um, it was fine. Yeah, 4 days. So, like, it was fine. I, like, could still do the stairs, but, like, I got the workout of my life that 4 days because I was, like, so out of breath, like, bringing my dog up and down the stairs, like, every 3 hours to go outside to pee. Um, which was fine. It was just, like, a lot of cardio for me. The other one I'd say is I once parked in the handicap spot for class, and this like elderly professor parked in front of me, and I was sitting in my car, like about to turn it off and go into class, and she like gave me a dirty look and like looked inside my car to see if I was like able-bodied. And I was like so offended. So I wrote a sticky note. I wrote on a sticky note and put it on her car. I was like, I have one leg. Please be kind. And stuck that in her car because I was like, I may not look like with pants on, like I need the handicap spot, but I do. Um, and then my other one is just like I fall probably like once a week, which it's not as like dangerous for me because I don't have like hardware in me, but it still sucks. Um, I sometimes forget to turn on my knee. My knee is computerized, so it has like resistance in it. So sometimes I forget to turn it on, and I just like totally fall on my face. One time I was walking at Niagara Falls, and there was um there was like tarp or something like under the leaves in the fall, and I didn't see it, and I like totally just fell in front of everyone at Niagara Falls. But and I like the ice is not my friend. The buffalo wind is insane, and sometimes the wind will just take me down because I cannot.
So you're just
All sail. I know it's just it like I mean it moves like able-bodied people. It moves them pretty rough, but I cannot hold my own with the wind, so it is not my friend. But yeah. So going off that, I know Daniel, you said that you have an aide, but what has really helped support you in all of you in getting around campus or your homes? Like my house has a staircase, and I live in a 2-story home, and it was really difficult to get up and down the stairs, especially after procedures. How do you communicate your needs with your parents, with your friends, with your extended family members, with your teachers? What are some tips that you all have?
I guess I can start. Yeah, so my family and friends and all the people around me I'm very fortunate to have them all be very supportive. And I guess my biggest tip is kind of whatever you need, just like voice your needs and just like voice what if you need help, because most people will probably help you out. So yeah, I also live in a 2-story home, and my bedroom is on the 2nd floor. So originally, it does they don't do it anymore because I've gotten better at going up and down the stairs. But in the beginning, I would always have like my dad or my mom like walk behind me or in front of me if I was going down, just in case like anything happens or if I lost my balance. And I have an aide at school, so basically anything that I would need help with, he helps me out with. And yeah, just like asking for help.
I think for me, I also live in a 2-story house, and when I was going through treatment, I didn't have any possible way to get upstairs. So like I had a GoFundMe at the beginning of my treatment, and I actually used that money to install a chairlift in my house, which I know some people are unable to do, but it was super helpful for me just to be able to get upstairs. But I'd say like another thing for me, I used a wheelchair for like a year, so I guess wheelchair etiquette is something to look into too. People think differently about this, but some people who use a wheelchair like to be asked before someone pushes them or like touches their wheelchair, because that's seen as like a part of their body almost. and they're like reliant on it. So I guess wheelchair etiquette with that, sometimes like I wanted to be very independent and push myself, and other times I really did want someone else to help me with that because it does get tiring. But
Yeah, I guess for me, echoing what everyone said, just advocating for what your needs are. And I think I've said this on Osteo before, but the people that are good and that you should keep around are the people that are willing to help and willing to listen and do what you need. Like if that's, you're walking on campus and you need to take a break, you need to sit down, ask to sit down, and your friends better sit down with you and say, take as long as you need, like, everything is fine. And I thought I was gonna say something else. Oh, yeah, I mean, and then I guess in addition to friends, my community was super incredible when I was in a wheelchair. I lived in a house that had like, I don't even remember how many stairs, like at least 20 to 30 stairs just to get in the house. And in 2015, when I had one of my major like revisions, the school football team like came to my house and lifted my wheelchair up into the house. That was like a fever dream, but I like, that was just, I don't know. I mean, like, I guess not every football team can come carry you up to your house, but if you're thinking,
was this a daily occurrence, or did this just happen like one time and then they were like,
this was just a one-time thing.
The football team had their like timers on to know when Camille was coming in and out of the house. They took shifts.
It was just a one-time thing, but I think just like there is good in people that like, that people are willing to do that and willing to help.
It can be hard to find for some people, but there are good people out there, and that's what I love about MIB. Is I've met so many great friends through this organization, and even though you all are East Coasters, I am still close with you, and we all get to talk and share our experiences, and I think that that's a beautiful thing. And if we can educate even just a few other people, that's great too. Yeah, I mean, I love you guys. That's all I have to say. Yeah, I guess my biggest tips are, again, just reiterating that get yourself a strong, supportive community. It doesn't have to be the local football team. It can just be friends and family who are willing to help. Weight belts are extremely, extremely helpful. You usually see them in PT, but that really helped. We know that if I fell, it'd be a lot easier for my family members to, I say family members, like multiple people live here. It's just my mom and I, but just lifting, and that'll help you get up when you have some of your strength. And yeah, just really having supportive friends who will have your back after a procedure, just being like, hi, I'm here. And, can I send you food? Can I do this? Can I do that? Even my girlfriend, she's like, before this podcast, I was like, oh my God, my computer's only has 25% battery. I'm not going to make it for the podcast. And it's really hard for me to reach the outlet. It's under my desk. Can you do it for me? And she said, yes. And that's fantastic. So just find people who will do stuff like that for you, sometimes without asking. And it just makes a world of a difference.
Well, on that note, guys, this was such a good episode. Like,
wholesome.
I feel like I know you guys on like a deeper level now, and like, I honestly like feel less alone, and that's so slay. But, yeah, thanks for tuning in, everyone, to OsteoWarriors, the Osteosarcoma podcast. Be sure to follow MIB agents on social media at the links in the description for all of the intel. Thank you to Kara and Daniel for joining us today, and until next time, we're your hosts, Camille
and Mia. Until next time, that's the team.
That's the team.